Okay, what's going on, everybody? We're here, we're alive. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I'm a little farther away from my mic than normal. So if you can hear me clearly, which is standard anyway, I was going to ask that question regardless. But if you can see and hear me clearly, please drop a 1 in the live chat and then we can get today's show started. So just let me know if you can see and hear me clearly. If not, I can adjust my mic to just bring it a little bit closer to me, or I'll make it a point to lean into it. Okay. And while I'm waiting for those ones to come in, just a quick funny story, or somewhat funny. At least it's funny to me. And I see the ones are coming in. Okay, so after my quick, somewhat funny story, which probably won't be funny to you, then we can get started. I I genuinely really enjoy, or I should say, I genuinely prefer, right, doing pre-recorded videos more than I do live streams. And one of the main reasons for that is this. As I was getting ready for today's stream, I'm in the bathroom and I was doing a light little touch up on my beard just so I don't look too rough on camera. I'm pre-gaming in my mind the things that I'm going to say because I don't have too many notes down today, right? But I'm pre-gaming what I'm going to say and I'm just talking to myself as I'm shaving. And man, I was spitting when I was in the bathroom. I was in the bathroom shaving and I was spitting, man. If you could have heard what was coming out of my mouth concerning the things that I'm going to talk about while I was shaving, I was spitting fire. And I know it is not going to come out like that during this live stream. It never happens. Once the little live icon is up there, all of a sudden, at least in my mind, I start talking past Aphasazi, and it's not coming out how I thought it would. But anyways, it is what it is. So we're here, and we're all together now. Let's get today's show started, and I believe that I'm going to be able to get through this fairly quickly, and hopefully this live stream will be as good as it was when I was shaving and touching myself up in the bathroom. All right. Hopefully it'll be as good as it was then. So please make sure you like the video, share this video, and hit the subscribe button as well. You could be doing a lot of things right now. You could be entertaining yourselves in a lot of different ways right now. You could be listening to a lot of other people speaking on a lot of different topics, but you're taking the time out to listen to me, and I definitely appreciate it, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So I appreciate you all. Let's get into today's information. Now, if you all have noticed, so far this year, within the first quarter of this year, and I'm going to keep doing this throughout the duration of this year, I've spoken quite a bit about illegal immigration, right? I've talked about it a lot. Uh, and one of the main reasons that I've spoken on it so much as I have is primarily due to the fact that illegal immigration negatively impacts Black Americans the most. That's a fact. That goes without saying. Anybody who says otherwise is lying, and they don't have any data or statistics to back that up. Illegal immigration negatively impacts Black Americans the most, right? And it does that primarily from the economic sense because the situation that we found ourselves in as Black Americans, and particularly Black men, and a lot of people point this out, is that illegal immigration creates a negative situation for Black Americans where you are now having to compete with illegal immigrants for non-skilled labor jobs. Now, a lot of times when you bring that up, a lot of people will say, well, that's your fault for not being skilled. And though that is true, I can't say that it's not true, right? I can't say that, right? Uh, at the same time, regardless of if it's one's fault for not being skilled in a trade, the fact remains that it negatively impacts Black Americans. And as a Black man, I'm going to be for my people in that regards. So, like I said, whether or not it's your fault or not for not being skilled, that's neither here nor there. The fact remains illegal immigration negatively impacts Black America. And with that, I believe that the necessary steps should be taken by us, those of us who are aware of this fact, to present this information and to put it out there, right? Not only so that we simply have the knowledge of this, but so that we can make the necessary changes from a political standpoint in terms of how we vote, and the things that we're voting for. And also, we can make the changes ourselves personally in regards to what I just stated about not being skilled, right? So that's the primary reason that I've been focusing on illegal immigration um, as much as I have this year. And like I said, I'll continue to do so throughout the duration of this year. And I'm sure for many more years to come afterwards. Secondly, I also want to take a quick moment to address the title of today's show. And I actually have it written down because I always make reference to the title every live stream and I always forget what I titled the show, right? So today's live stream is titled Senate Dems Block Bill That Would Stop Non-Citizen Voting and It's Black America's Fault. What do I mean by it's Black America's fault, right? What am I talking about when I say that? What do I mean by that? If I'm not mistaken, and I should have looked it up to double check, but if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me correctly, Washington, D.C., because this is where this happened at, right? It just is a quick, so you all know what happened. Washington, D.C. City Council voted to allow non-citizens the right to vote in local elections, right? Regardless of citizenship status. What followed afterwards is that the House of Representatives, Republicans within the House of Representatives, drafted a bill that would stop that. Okay. Once they drafted the bill that would stop that, it got sent to the Senate, and the Democrats in the Senate, they knocked it down. Now, while it was in the process of getting voted on within the House of Representatives, and here's where I'm coming to the point of it being Black America's fault. When during that process, you had people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and one other woman whose name I don't remember, but if you go back and watch the original video that I made on this, topic, I bring her up. One of the things that they stated when they were opposing the bill, because they're for non-citizen voting, is that this bill to prevent non-citizens the right to vote is actually racist towards Black people because it's infringing on Black Americans' right in Washington, D.C. It's infringing upon their right to pick the politics of the city that they are the majority in. That's the angle that they were using. Because once again, if I'm not mistaken, in Washington, D.C., Black Americans make up, about 50% of the population? The majority, if not close to the majority? If I'm not mistaken, somebody please let me know in the live chat. But I believe that's the case. And like I said, the argument that they were using to support non-citizen voting is they were saying that essentially because in Washington, D.C., Black Americans have fallen asleep at the wheel concerning local politics, which is something that I've stressed over and over again on this channel. Because you've fallen asleep at the wheel of local politics, and you're not really sure of who's in charge concerning city council who passed this bill, when they start passing bills like this, they then turn around and say, this is what Black people wanted. That's what they say. You wanted this because Washington, D.C. is a majority Black city, right? And in this majority Black city, your city council passed a bill allowing non-citizen voting. And that city council is who you voted for. So if they pass that bill, that means that's what you wanted, regardless of the fact that that's most likely not what you wanted. But because you've fallen asleep at the wheel concerning local politics and you just let anybody in willy-nilly, now they're doing whatever they want to do. And people like AOC are saying, hey, that's what Black folks wanted. They did the same thing to you. I remember in 2016, right? During the election between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I don't remember if it was Clump. I don't Clump, Donald Clump. I don't remember if it was Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton who said this. And thank you very much, Janesta Coleman, for the super chat. You're always showing love in between both channels, in between this channel and just talking with TD and Rob. So Janesta, thank you very much. And Black Logic, thank you, brother, for always as well for showing support. Black Logic is always showing support to the channel. And is always campaigning for that interview. Maybe, I don't, in due time, Black Logic, in due time, brother. But I do appreciate your support to the channel. You've been very consistent with very generous super chats, and it doesn't go unnoticed. And I thank you, Black Logic. I thank you very much for your support. But as I was saying, for those of you who remember in the 2016 election, right? It was brought up, and I don't remember if it was Bill Clinton who did this or if it was Hillary Clinton, but I believe it was Bill Clinton. And let me know if you all remember this in the live chat as well. I believe it was Bill Clinton who was getting heckled over the crime bill and him signing the crime bill, right? The one that was written by Joe Biden. And he was getting heckled over the fact that Hillary Clinton was referring to Black Americans as super predators, right? And once again, if I remember correctly, and some of you may as well, Bill Clinton lost it on stage when they were heckling him. And he was yelling back at the Black folks protesting him, saying, "This is what you wanted. This is what you wanted. You all said you wanted this," referring to the crime bill. He said that that's what you wanted. But when he's saying that this is what Black people wanted, you're sitting here mad at me over the crime bill, and you're mad at my wife for calling you super predators. And he's saying that this is what you wanted. What he means by that is those who represent you. The Jim Clyburns and the Maxine Waters of the world, right? The Congressional Black Caucus, or the NAACP, but we'll stick to the Congressional Black Caucus, right? These people had an opportunity to observe the bill. The people that represent Black America, they had an opportunity to observe the bill, right? And after reviewing it, we're assuming they did. They most likely didn't. They said everything was all good. Yeah, go ahead, pass it, sign it. We're gonna vote for that. We'll sign off on that. We'll vote for that in the House of Representatives and send it over to the Senate. And then they voted for it to the Senate. And then after that, Bill Clinton signed it into law. When he's saying that's what Black people wanted, he was talking about the Congressional Black Caucus, because they are your representation, whether you like it or not. We know they're not worth anything, but it is what it is, right? It is what it is. So when I say it's Black folks, it's Black America's fault, that's what I mean by that. It becomes your fault by default because of those who represent you. And it's not just your fault by default, but it's also our fault very literally if we're unable to remove these people who represent their own interests, they represent their own personal interests and their own personal well-being by solely backing up the Democratic Party. If we're unable to remove them out of office, and on top of that, we're falling asleep at the wheel during local elections, letting anybody willy-nilly become city council members, and then they pass laws that allow non-citizens to vote, then in reality, it is our fault, right? Because the devil's always going to be the devil. The devil's always going to be devilish. It's a fact. Concerning the Democratic Party and their relationship with Black America and what they don't do, right? You can always expect the devil to be the devil, but if we're constantly co-signing the devil's devilish behavior, then whose fault is it really? We have to hold our own selves accountable in that regards. And if we're not holding our own selves accountable in that regards, then we'll never make the necessary changes to move things forward, right? So it's not a matter of beating up on ourselves. Oh, it's Black folks' fault. We can't do anything right. No. Just like you do in your personal life, we hold ourselves accountable so that we can make the necessary changes to move forward accordingly, right? So that's what's meant by that title. So now let's get into what happened. I believe it was last week when the Senate Democrats blocked the bill that would have put an end to non-citizen voting in Washington, D.C. Let's get into that right now. And to do that, what I want to do is that I'm going to be reading from this article from the Epoch Times. And let me pull that up for you right now. Okay. And this article is titled "Senate Democrat Leadership Refuses to Block DC from Giving Non-Citizens the Vote." Okay. Now, before I get started on this, please make sure you hit the like button if you haven't already. There's 274 people in here. Please hit the like button. Please share this video out on social media. And if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. And for those of you who have shown support to the channel via Super Chat, via Cash App and whatnot, thank you very much for your support. It's very much appreciated. Now let's get into this article right here. Let's start reading. I should just hit the play button and let the little AI speak, but I won't do that. I won't be that lazy, right? A coalition of election integrity and voting rights leaders made an unsuccessful 11th hour appeal to the U.S. Senate on March 13th to block the District of Columbia Council from giving non-citizens the right to vote in municipal elections or local elections, right? Though the House of Representatives had passed a resolution of disapproval with strong bipartisan support in February, because remember, this was very much so a bipartisan bill. Republicans and Democrats alike were opposed to non-citizens voting in local election in DC. Okay. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and the Democrat leadership did not allow the matter to come before the Senate for a vote. Okay, so the Democrats blocked it. Two resolutions of disapproval, one by Senator Tom Cotton, a Republican of Arkansas, I believe that is, and another by Senator Ted Cruz, Republican from Texas, were introduced and then referred to the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. The committee's chairman, Senator Gary Peters, Democrat from Michigan, did not schedule a hearing on either resolutions, thereby killing both. Okay? So that's the Democrats now. Under the Home Rule Act, a resolution of disapproval from both houses of Congress and agreed to by the president enables the federal government to overrule actions by the DC Council. So for those of you who aren't aware of this, because I actually just learned this throughout this whole ordeal, is that, in Washington, D.C., whatever they vote for in city council concerning local politics, it could all be overruled by the federal government, right? Inaction by the Senate allowed the Local Resident Voting Rights Act of 2022, passed by the D.C. Council in October, to take effect on March 14th. So as of today, March 24th, right, non-citizens, regardless of their citizenship status, can vote in local elections in Washington, D.C. All right. Let's get into this. Residency over citizenship. The LRVRA, right? LRVRA standing for Local Residents Voting Rights Act of 2022, gives all residents over 18 that have lived in the district for 30 days the right to vote in local elections, irrespective of citizenship status. Okay? Whether they are legal or illegal, doesn't matter if they're undocumented. In Washington, D.C. now, as of March 14th, they can vote in local elections. That's these folks right here. Let me play this video for you. Let me show you who can, after 30 days, because these folks that I'm going to show you right here, they just got here, like, what was it, 2 weeks ago when this happened? But I spoke on this last week, but this particular situation that I'm going to show you right now happened 2 weeks ago. But these folks that stormed the border 2 Sundays ago, if they make their way to Washington, D.C., they can vote in local elections, and after 30 days. I'm gonna play that one more time. They're all here in the country now, and as long as they make their way to Washington, D.C. in 30 days, those folks that you saw storming the border, by the thousands, literally, it was about 1,000. So I guess technically by the 1,000, right? They can vote in 30 days once they get to DC. They literally just got here. Literally just got here. Don't speak a lick of English. don't know nothing about nothing in terms of what's going on in the country and what's going on within Washington, D.C. concerning local politics, concerning the people of the city, whatever. Don't know anything about anything because they just got here. But after 30 days, they will be able to vote in local elections in Washington, D.C. This is craziness. This is craziness. Let's carry on with the article now. So let me pull this back up, the Epoch Times article, right? Give me just a second. Okay. So on the eve of the bill becoming law, the Public Interest Legal Foundation, PILF, called a press conference in Washington to draw public attention to what was about to happen if the Senate failed to act. PILF is a national public interest law firm dedicated to election integrity, preventing the constitutional framework of America's election and preserving the constitutional framework of American elections and protecting and preserving the right to vote. Christopher Arps, president of Americans for Citizen Voting, kicked off the meeting saying the right to vote is not absolute. Only citizens are allowed to vote. Okay? Now let's scroll down over here to foreign embassy workers can vote, because a lot of people didn't know this. But now foreign embassy workers can vote in Washington, D.C. as well. I can't pronounce this individual's last name. I believe the last name might be Q. I don't know. We'll just say Ken Q. I'm just going to say that. So it'll save time on me struggling right now. Ken Q, formerly of the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service Agency, told reporters that the LRVRA would allow employees of China and Russia living and working in Washington to vote and thereby have a voice in the running of America's national capital. How insane is that? That's complete insanity. That's insanity. Mexico, and here's a direct quote from Ken Q. We're saying Q because I can't pronounce his last name. Mexico, Germany, and France do not allow non-citizens to vote. We are becoming a laughingstock in the eyes of our enemies, he said. Currently serving as the national chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative. Oh, you know what? Before I read that, let me pause for a moment, because what I want to do is, and this shouldn't take too long, I want to play this as well, because as I just read to you, right? With this bill passing, foreign embassy workers can vote, right? Meaning those from China, employees from China and Russia who are living and working in Washington, right? They can vote now too in Washington, D.C. elections. But let me show you who else can vote in Washington, D.C. elections now too. So let me play this real quick, and then I'm going to get back to the article. And some of you might have seen this already because you saw this in the video that I put out 2 days ago, but I'm going to play it again. Now watch this video here of these Chinese nationals being released into the American population via this tweet by Griff Jenkins. And the tweet reads off, "Breaking. Fox News captures exclusive video of Chinese nationals being released publicly to an NGO in Brownsville, Texas. CBP sources say they are being released with NTAs, notice to appear, because there are so many crossing and no more space to house them."
Now, in that same group, just a little bit up the river, 7 Chinese you can see here every single day, 4 straight days, Jillian, I have encountered Chinese nationals being dropped off. That's why the Border Patrol chief here, Gloria Chavez, says they're seeing a 920% increase in Chinese nationals. So much so, we now can show you exclusive video Fox News capturing in Brownsville, Texas, Border Patrol releasing Chinese nationals to a local NGO with notices to appear. They've been processed by Border Patrol and simply released to the public. We don't know everything about them, and we certainly don't know where they're going to go. That's why the border officials are saying that this is not only a humanitarian crisis, as we showed you with that child, but also a national security crisis now with tons of Chinese nationals being set loose in the U.S. Jillian?
to answer Christopher's question, right? Christopher Perkins, shout out to Christopher Perkins for always coming through. Christopher said, these Chinese get to vote as well? Yes, they do. If they make their way to Washington, D.C., if they make their way to Washington, D.C., after only 30 days, they can vote as well. They can vote also. I mean, this is insanity, right? But this is the Democratic Party that, for whatever the reason being, our people are completely mindless zombies to, unfortunately, where we just vote Democrat just to be doing it, because it's become a religion for us at this point, and we're literally at this stage in the game voting against our own interests. Thank you very much, Cutthroat Naj, for the super chat. Cutthroat said, my older fan members thinks you're Fox News. I mean, I don't, it's unfortunate that they think that. It's unfortunate because either what I'm saying is accurate or it's inaccurate. Either it's true or it's not. And us as a people, we have to get over this thing of, Fox News and the Republicans and they're racist and all that kind of stuff. Either the information is correct or it isn't correct. That's what it boils down to. And I believe that that's how moving forward, Cutthroat, as well as many of us, we have to articulate ourselves in that way. When they're saying things like, this sounds like Fox News. Well, is what he's saying correct or is it incorrect? It's either right or it's wrong. That's all there is to it, and I believe that you should press them in that regards. Is it correct or incorrect? And if they can't answer the question because they know it's correct, well, then I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you. It just goes to show also, like, once again as well, unfortunately, for whatever the reason being, we've morphed into vote blue no matter who zombies, but let's carry on with this article because, I'm going to actually speak more on that in a minute, right? In a minute. So, well, let me get back to this article very quickly. So I'll put this back on the screen. Oh, oops. There we go. Cutthroat Nash said, I tried, they don't listen. Well, and I believe you, Cutthroat. As our good brother Rob would say, and as he always says on his channel, then that just goes to prove that the world is correct. Unfortunately, for the moment, the world is very much correct. Everything is exactly how it's supposed to be until we make the necessary changes in our behavior patterns and what we do that will ultimately create a different outcome, right? But until that, the world is correct. So let's carry on with this article now. Give me just a second. Now, where was I? Okay, yeah. Foreign embassy workers can vote, blah, 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 blah. Currently serving as the national chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative, Q, we'll call him, warned that the nation's big problem of unclean voter rolls would be made worse if the LRVRA and similar laws in New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, right? Because they're trying to make that stuff happen in New York as well. The state's New York State Supreme Court already shut down non-citizen voting in New York, but that's not going to stop the Democrats over there in office from continuing to try to get that to pass, right? Did I want to read this here? Hogan Gidley, director of the American First Policy Institute Center for Election Integrity, said that with millions of people here illegally and unlawfully, extending the right to vote on the basis of residency and non-citizenship would make it even harder for election officials struggling to accurately balance the number of ballots cast with the number of people who actually voted in elections, right? Now, here's the key part that I wanted to highlight for you guys right here. Citizens' rights diluted. The U.S. Civil Rights Commissioner and president of PILF, J. Christian Adams, said Black voters are hurt when foreign nationals are given the vote. It dilutes the vote of Black citizens, said Adams, who pointed to Los Angeles as an example of the slow erosion of the influence of Blacks to the point that the city has next to no Black representation. Okay. PILF attorneys are currently suing New York City on behalf of 4 Black citizens who contended the city's action of governing non-citizens. The right to vote in local elections dilute their votes, is unconstitutional, and violates the Voting Rights Act. Now, who is J. Christian Adams, right? This man right here is J. Christian Adams. This is who they're speaking on right now. This guy right here is a Republican, okay? And this is the guy, the Republican man, that's speaking the truth, that's being accurate, right? Because we want to operate on accuracy. Who's being accurate in his assessment that non-citizen voting would hurt Black Americans, would dilute Black American voting power in Washington D.C., right? So you see, all this stuff about Cutthroat, I'm looking at Cutthroat. Cutthroat Nash, thank you again for the super chat. Cutthroat Nash said, this is really what the John Lewis bill is about. That is what the John Lewis bill is really about, right? It is what it's really about. It's being able to get, non-citizens the right to vote just overall in general. And that's what I'm going to get to right now. So you see, this man that you're looking at right now, J. Christian Adams, right? This Republican Caucasian individual, right, whose law firm is representing 4 Black Americans in New York who are suing on the basis of basically discrimination and their civil rights being infringed upon. He's actually being accurate in the things that he's stating concerning the negative impacts this has on Black America. My purpose for highlighting him the way that I am right now and just kind of rambling on concerning him is that, like I was saying earlier concerning Cutthroat Nash and what his family says about me being Fox News, is that we got to get over this, oh, they're racist, that racist, everybody's racist. Bro, we live in the United States of America, all right? The United States is a melting pot. That's what everybody says, right? It's so much of a melting pot that by 2064, Black Americans are going to be 4th on the population list. That's how much of a melting pot that it is. Well, what's one thing that everybody has in common and that everybody can agree upon in the United States of America? You know what that is? That they don't like you. Okay? That's the one thing that everybody can agree upon. So the whole thing about Fox News is racist, these Republicans are racist, this person is racist. Oh, you pulled up some information, TD, from the what is this called again? From the Federalist Society. Isn't that some like right-wing conservative like think tank kind of thing? At the end of the day, everybody's racist. So you got to get over that, right? You got to get over it to the degree that we can't allow it to block common sense. That's my point. So if in this regard, this gentleman, right, this man right here, right, J. Christian Adams, if me and him can come together on the basis of what we have in common concerning preserving the rights of voting rights of Black Americans in Washington, D.C., why wouldn't I move forward with him? I'm not going to not move forward with him as it pertains to that because he most likely doesn't support reparations. Me and him can argue about that later. What do we agree upon right now, though? What can we come together on right now? What do we have in common right now that you and I are both can see eye to eye, or will see eye to eye concerning how non-citizen voting negatively impacts Black America? So though we may disagree in one regard, right, and we may disagree in a lot of regards concerning racial issues, to the point to where I might look at you sideways, man, this dude Adams is a racist. I don't know if he really likes Black people like that. But if me and him can come together on this point, then I'm going to come together with him on it. And that's how we should operate as people. That's how we all should operate. That's how we all should operate, because that's what other groups do, right? Other groups do that. You have people coming into the country illegally, right, and some legally as well by way of like H-1B visas, right? Who come into the country riding on the back of Democrat Party policies, to which they'll even continue for a short time voting Democrat in order to solidify themselves and to get the resources that they need to maintain themselves and build themselves up in the country. And then while they're doing that, they're raising their child up with conservative values and raising them up to be a conservative. They don't really rock with Democrats like that, but they'll rock with them to the degree that they can get what they need to get out of them. And then once they get what they need, you'll see them switch sides, right? Or you'll see that the child grows up to be anti-woke activist like Republican Vivek Ramaswamy, who's running for president on the Republican ticket. His parents are from India. They moved here and he was born here. And if I remember correctly, Vivek is from Ohio. His parents came here on Democratic Party legislation. But this guy is an extreme, no, I'm not going to say an extreme, but he is a far right-wing conservative because his whole platform is being an anti-woke activist, to which, and I quote, because these are the words that came out of his mouth because I spoke on him about 2 weeks ago. He said that affirmative action is the greatest cancer permeating throughout America. Who is he talking about when he says that? Who is he talking about? He's talking about any type of policy that may look, appear to, or smell like it might benefit Black Americans. He's going to be against it, right? But they rode in, his whole family rode in on the back of Democratic Party legislation. And on that platform, you see, they know how to go back and forth. They'll flip sides. They go back and forth, back and forth. They're rocking with Democrats one election. Next election, they might be rocking with Republicans. They go back and forth. We got to learn to be able to do the same thing as well. We got to be able to do the same thing as well. We have to. We have to. Or else we're finished. That's called playing the game. You're not loyal to any side. You're loyal to the policy. You're loyal to yourself and what you and your people can get out of the situation, right? That's how we need to conduct ourselves. That's how we need to act as well. Now, what I want to do very quickly is I want to take a moment to actually get into that lawsuit that's being had, right? Because like I said, these 4 Black people in let me pull up the article. These 4 Black folks in New York City are being represented, I guess apparently by a bunch of racists, by most people's standards, right? By the mainstream standard. These Republicans and these Republican right-wing conservative think tanks and this right-wing law firm, they're supposed to all be racist. And who knows, to some degree, maybe to a large degree, they might be. But those 4 Black folks that are in New York, and though that law firm and the Republicans that are backing them and all that kind of stuff that they are aligned with, at least on this issue, they're on the same page. And now those 4 Black folks who are, excuse me, now those 4 Black folks in New York City who have pursued that lawsuit are moving accordingly. So let me go through this article very quickly, just so we can get a little bit more information on what's going on with that, okay? So Black voters sue NYC over non-citizen voting, claim it violates civil rights laws, right? Now, for those of you who get triggered by Fox News, once again, either this information is accurate or it's inaccurate. You can't be that silly that you see Fox News and you get triggered and you just shut your brain off completely and you don't know how to think anymore. Either the information is accurate or it's inaccurate. I hate when I don't have the article up when I thought I had it up. Let me pull it up right now. Okay, so now let me go through this really quickly, okay? Because I actually got to get out of here. Um, a group of Black New Yorkers sued the Big Apple's Board of Elections, claiming that the new law allowing non-citizens to cast ballots in local election violates federal civil rights laws because the New York City Council passed a law in order to strengthen the voting power of certain racial groups, diluting voters of other groups. I think we all knew that already. They explicitly used race as a factor to I'm sorry, you all know my voice always gets hoarse. At some point, I did well. I lasted pretty long. I think we were like 40 minutes in. I got to take a swig of this water real quick. I'm sorry. Give me a second. I can't get through one live stream without at least, taking a couple sips, of tea or coffee or water. So anyways, let's get back into it. And Brother Tennessee, I thank you for your super chat. I'll read it off in just a moment. Let me get through this article very quickly. They explicitly used race as a factor of demarking the voter. Is that demarking? Yeah, demarking the voter groups that they wanted to give this privilege to. And that is a direct violation of the 15th Amendment. Former Ohio Secretary of State Ken Blackwell, a member of the board of directors at the Public Interest Legal Foundation, PILF, which filed the lawsuit, told Fox News. The 15th Amendment states that the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied, abridged, or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous conditions of servitude, right? Discriminatory. Uh-oh. Okay, I thought the live stream cut out. Discriminatory intent may be established by proof that race was a motivating factor by proponents of the law. The lawsuit states overwhelming direct and circumstantial evidence exists that the Foreign Citizen Voting Bill was enacted with an impressionable racial intent, okay? Or with an impermissible racial intent, I should say, right? The lawsuit cites council member Yandis Rodriguez, a sponsor of the bill, a sponsor of the bill, intro 1867 A, who said in Spanish, he said this in Spanish, that the bill would increase the power of Hispanics and Asian. You see how you're blocked out through culture? Let me read that one more time. The lawsuit cites city council member Yandes Rodriguez, a sponsor of the bill, intro 1867A, who said in Spanish that the bill would increase the power of Hispanics and Asians. Okay. The lawsuit also claimed the council member Antonio Reynoso, I think that's how you say his name, also framed the legislation along racial lines. When white power, and this is a quote from Antonio Reynoso, right? When white power or white men's power is being attacked, what they consider being attacked, they step up and they fight, he said, while advocating for the bill. So this man was literally Antonio Reynoso, right? Reynoso. He was literally saying we need to conduct ourselves as the white supremacists do. That's what he was saying. I'm going to read his quote again. He said, when white power or white men's power is being attacked, what they consider being attacked, they stand up and they fight. He's literally saying we need to conduct ourselves as the white supremacists do. He said while advocating the bill. This is we're going to continue to quote Mr. Antonio Reynoso, right? They fight to preserve their power and their influence. Have to stop and think about this sea of mostly white men that have stood up against the bill at the moment in an effort to preserve their power and influence. And that's exactly what will happen every time you challenge power. Okay, so now what he's saying here, what he just said right there, is that it's mostly white men, right, that are standing up against this bill. But that simply isn't true, because as you can see as well, you have four Black American citizens from New York that are suing because of the fact that this actually infringes and dilutes Black Americans' voting power in New York. And the basis of that bill being passed was on the basis of race, right? For the purposes of enhancing and moving forward and being able to expand the voting power, right, of Hispanics and Asians in New York, right? Regardless of whatever the negative impacts are that it has on you. I'm going to read this one last paragraph, and then I think I'm going to have to shut it down because this is running a little bit long for today. I have some stuff that I have to attend to, unfortunately. The lawsuit also cites then Council President Lori Combo, who noted that the bill is going to shift the power dynamic in New York City in a major way, and we do not have the numbers or the information to know how it's going to impact the African American communities who have been the most vulnerable in their existence in New York City. I've never heard in this one discussion, how is the African American voter going to be impacted by this bill? And if I remember correctly, the council president, Lori Combo, she herself is African American. If I remember correctly, she herself is African American. And she stated right here, and I'm going to read her quote one more time, and then we're going to go ahead and shut this thing down, right? But she went on to state, we do not have the numbers or information to know how that is going to impact African American communities. We have been the most vulnerable in their who have been the most vulnerable in their existence in New York City. I've never heard in this one discussion about how what? I've never heard in this one discussion about how is the African American voter going to be impacted by this bill, right? I'm sorry, give me just a second. Okay. So with that, as you all can clearly see, I'm not going to finish out, like I said, the article. Unfortunately, you could all read it for yourself, but I actually have to run. But as you can see, in New York, the necessary steps were taken by four Black Americans to reach out to the PILF law firm to sue essentially on behalf of the other Black Americans in New York City who are unfortunately too lost, right? They're lost in the delusion of voting blue no matter who to even understand that what's happening by blindly voting Democrat like this actually dilutes their own voting power. These people, these four Black Americans who didn't allow whether or not, said Republican is racist, or whether or not the law firm, engages in a lot of kind of racist practices and they're always backing like kind of white people for certain things in regards to what's racial or not. They didn't let that get in the way, right? They didn't let those things get in the way of teaming up with that law firm and other said Republicans and other white folks that they could agree upon. And they didn't let that stuff get into the way of whether or not they were going to team up with them to pursue this lawsuit. And this lawsuit, literally, if it's won, right? And at the moment, currently, the bill has already been struck down, but the lawsuit is still going, right? But if won, this lawsuit will help to solidify and protect the integrity of the Black vote in New York City, right? I think it's very important. I think it's very, very important that we take a note from those four Black Americans, right? who put all that other extra stuff to the side concerning who's racist, they're racist, Republicans, oh, conservatives, and all that. No. This, what's happening in New York City, is crazy. So regardless of what you think from conservative standpoints in regards to reparations or whatever that I might support, as I've been stating over and over again, we can argue that later. What do we have in common right now? Do you recognize how this, city council bill that passed in Washington, D.C. is negatively impacting me? Do you recognize how this city council bill that allows non-citizens to vote in New York City, do you recognize how it negatively impacts me? Oh, you recognize that? Bet. Then we can work together. Let's work together to put an end to that. And then we can argue about the other stuff later, right? We have to be able to do that. We have to be able to come together on the basis of what we have in common, not just with one another, right? Because I normally, when I use that quote, I'm speaking about each other as Black folks being able to come together on the basis of what we have in common, right? But that also applies to any and everybody else, right? We have to operate on accuracy, we have to operate with logic, and we have to operate with common sense. So with all that being said, that does it for today's video. I'm just going to shout out the people that showed love to the channel today via super chat. Thank you very much, Brother Tennessee. Brother Tennessee said, you can share the truth and Blacks will still vote Democrat. By the way, the Black pastor is a huge stumbling block from Blacks getting reparations. I'm sure he's talking about San Francisco. DTXO Cliff 97 said affirmative action isn't benefiting Black people. That's absolutely right. It mainly benefits white women. But as I stated in the Vivek Ramaswamy video that I did, was it 2 weeks ago? Most people don't recognize it as that, right? They don't recognize it as that. When they hear affirmative action, the first thing that comes to their mind is a Black person getting a position that they don't deserve, or a Black person getting into college and they're not qualified to get into that college, but they got in there because they're Black. Right. And it's because of affirmative action. They don't recognize, know, or understand the fact that it actually majority benefits white women. Right. Val Williams, thank you very much for your contribution to the channel. And is that it? Also, Alex Hill, thank you very much, Alex Hill. Thank you very much, Alex Hill. And Big Stomp. Big Stomp, thank you very much, Big Stomp, with the generous super sticker. And we'll end it on that note. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out. And also, I almost forgot this. Like 30 of you already left before I could even say this. Oh, I'm so mad. If you haven't already, please make sure you join my Telegram group. All right. If you haven't already, please make sure you join my Telegram group. I'm going to put the link in the live chat right now, but it's currently in the description as well. The link is in the description, but let me pull up the Telegram group right now so that you can join my Telegram group. It's free, right? And here is the link right now. And this way we can stay connected in the event that, I disappear somehow for some reason, on social media or whatnot. There's all the shadow banning and things like that going on, where, my posts don't get seen, notifications don't get sent out. So I have a multitude of options that you can subscribe to. Telegram is one of them also, but you can also make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you can get a direct text notification whenever I release a new video. And also make sure you subscribe to or follow me on social media accounts as well. Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. Anyways, I got to get out of here, guys. This was a very productive and constructive stream today. And thank you everybody for showing love on today's live stream. I will holler at you guys next Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Peace. Now, if I can only get my mouse cursor to move over to the end broadcast button, then I can get out of here. Okay. All right, everybody. Peace.